Here we are. Ashley, how are you, first of all?
Phenomenal. Great to be here.
In which part of the world you are in this moment?
Hong Kong. So big hello from the other side of the globe.
Gosh, so tell me, my curiosity, what's the situation with coronavirus in Hong Kong? In which stage are you with this pandemic?
So for us, it started about 2 months ago. So right now we are on the downward kind of spiral here. And
Right.
in the past couple of days, we haven't had a lot of cases or even weeks. And the only cases that are right now popping up in Hong Kong are pretty much imported. So I've got family living in Australia. Actually, my brother and my sister-in-law, they called me up and say, in Australian press, they talk about two cities that made a phenomenal recovery from corona, which is Hong Kong and Singapore.
Right.
So we are the example of how you shall handle it, apart from, of course, mainland China, that probably has taken the biggest hit and has also thrown in a lot of forces to stop it and buy the world a lot of time as well.
Got it. And what do you think was what happened in Hong Kong that went particularly well? Did you notice something specific? They quarantine immediately everyone. What happened there?
Right. I think that there's been a few things. First of all, Hong Kong, just like Singapore, has experience with SARS, over a decade ago. So people are very comfortable with this concept that, okay, if something's not going well, we're not coming together. We're not going to go for that party. We're not going to have that dinner. And I hear that in Europe and in a lot of places around the world, that's still a virgin concept. The government was not so swift, but they finally decided to close the border with mainland China. And later on, they started basically quarantining all the international flights in and out. So right now, when you come to Hong Kong from today onwards, you are placed on mandatory quarantine for 2 weeks. Doesn't matter where you come from, but you are placed in quarantine and they essentially track you. And of course, they closed schools. Schools have been closed since Chinese New Year, which is in January, up until right now, they're still closed. So they're only coming back probably in April. So of course, it is difficult, right? Parents have to do something with their kids, but essentially it's just understanding that this is necessary. And also people in Hong Kong in generally are comfortable wearing masks, even though, people say it doesn't help, but at least it helps psychologically. And if somebody coughs on you, it will help as a barrier, as a protector. So all these in combination, I guess, were the good things that we can all learn from.
Did the job. So, Ashley, I wanted to talk with you about how to, let's say, leverage this situation from a business perspective, because in this situation, I always see two different approaches. Approach number one are companies or entrepreneurs or freelance that start to panic and complain and see the worst scenario and everything will be done, kaput, that's it.
End of the world.
End of the war, and they just focus on that. They have this tunnel vision and they go down and down and down. And on the other side, you see a lot of companies that prosper in difficult scenarios and recessions and so on. So I wanted to get your huge experience with the Chinese market and marketing strategies to try to help people watching this video to get ideas and so on. First of all, for people who are not familiar with you, can you explain in 20 seconds what you do and what is your main focus in this moment?
So my main focus since the past 12 years has been mainland China. And essentially all of my businesses are focused on the mainland China market. I've got a digital agency, which helps international companies to do social media and essentially reach 1.4 billion potential consumers. And then I have a training company where we help businesses to understand their consumer in China, to prepare strategy, to train their teams, etc. So as you see, I've been immersed in mainland China for many years, and I've lived in mainland China. I speak really good, right, Mandarin Chinese. My team is Chinese. And indeed, there are a lot of learnings that I feel in general, the world in the 21st century can get from China. in this digital world, in the way they use AI, in the way they use social media, technology, the way they're building new retail, the way their tech giants are participating in a completely unique ways in the society, etc.
Yeah.
But at this time of crisis, right, coronavirus, we can also learn from something more immediate, because China has been the first frontier for this disease breakout. And I love it how you said that at the very, very beginning, you said some people look at it as crisis, other people look at it as opportunity. In Chinese, the word crisis, it's pronounced wei ji. It composes of two characters. And the first character, wei, it means danger. And the second character, ji, it's ji hui, it is opportunity. So these two words together mean opportunity that comes after danger. This is crisis. And of course, for anyone and everyone who is willing to look beyond just the first scare, there are a lot of opportunities. For instance, in China, we can see a huge rise in e-commerce.
Right.
In the first couple of weeks, and I'm sure that Europe is going to go through that, US is going to go through that. Of course, e-commerce is the first instinct. People go there, but logistics breaks down. So it's a great stress testing the system. So it's stress testing the system, logistics. In China, within 2 to 3 weeks, logistics went back to normal, but this demand for e-commerce stayed escalated. New audiences that were not purchasing online, or people that were not purchasing online certain type of goods. For example, for daily shopping in China, like in Italy, like in Europe, people still prefer going to the market and picking their own tomatoes. But throughout this crisis, they were able to relocate that daily purchase in supermarket online. Besides that, we see a huge rise in live streaming. Who is live streaming? These days, everybody is live streaming. For instance, if you are selling something very niche, like pink underwear with a cartoon character on it, and I'm not joking you, there are very niche stores in China. You are going to be live streaming the pink underwear, and you're going to be communicating with people for 4, 5, 6 hours. And believe me, live streaming, and I want to say to all followers in Europe and Italy, it's not just the way to purchase. It is also the way for people to connect, because we will have to go through social isolation one way or another to prevent the spread of the crisis. And long-term, short-term, it's going to impact the way we communicate. So when people are there, I mean, imagine this, in China, people were on lockdown for 6 to 8 weeks. They wouldn't really go out. They wouldn't really socialize. And right now, the social distancing is also there. So how can I come together and speak with all these hundreds of people and feel like I'm the part of the community? Live streaming is the answer.
1 second, sorry, Ashley.
Just to give you a couple of...
1 second, live streaming, very interesting. I just do a step back. What would you say is the Chinese situation at the moment, the Chinese market at the moment, from your perspective, comparing with a few months ago? Is still in big troubles, is recovering, is already more or less at the same point than before coronavirus? What's the photography?
So you mean in terms of live streaming, or in terms of the market consumption in general?
Market consumption. So if you promote a product, if you sell, what's the situation?
So I would say, let's start with this. What does it mean back to normal? So in my world, let's say back to some sort of normal is people are going back to work.
Right.
And I would say right now in China, 90% of people are back to work. So they're physically back in the office. In terms of consumption, there will be a new normal. It's not going to be back to that normal 3 months ago, because people right now feel a bit more conservative. They feel concerned. They're not sure what's going to happen with world economy. So they are not spending with the same sentiment. So the sentiment is definitely down. And while we have some industries that are definitely winners, for example, online education is a huge winner. Remote work is a huge winner. Digital platforms, social media, any kind of news, etc., huge winners. As I said, e-commerce in general is generally a winner. But when we look at the whole consumption, the whole sentiment, there will still be a slight correction, and it is due to consumer sentiment. And I believe this is not going to recover within the next 2, 3, 4 months.
So I like the idea that there will be a new normal. Do you think that the habits that were formed in this moment, like e-commerce, buying online, training, online education, they here to stay or not?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. If we look at, let's say, going back to e-commerce, in the past 6 weeks, 1 million new merchants entered Taobao.
Wow.
It means there's 1 million new people started selling something on Taobao. And these are primarily people like farmers that were selling radishes, to distribution, but then they start selling directly to consumers. These are people that had tiny little stores, the one that I told you, selling pink underwear, very, very niche product with cartoon characters on it, etc. In terms of live streaming, it increased. I'm just looking at the latest data, month on month, 719%. Wow. Think about that. So of course it's going to have long-term effect because everybody's on it. In terms of online education, right now, DingTalk, which is also a product of Taobao, became from a Slack-like platform, which is helping small businesses to basically send each other emails and communicate. They became the biggest online education provider in China. We have so far 300 cities in China that are fully educating their students through this digital platform. Think about this, 50 million students are educated on a daily basis. And while, of course, we cannot say that, in a month, still all these 50 million people be there, but it will be an additional platform. So there will be offline classes, of course, as preferred way to communicate, but then there will be always this online element. It is there to stay. Or remote work. Previously in China, there was no such concept. What do you mean remote work? You go to the office, you sit there, and when your boss leaves the office, then it's your time to go. But right now, it's going to change as well. People are taking 1-2 days, and they feel that they're more productive. So a lot of those changes are definitely happening.
Go back to the live streaming concept, because here in Europe, I would say, of course, there are tons of live streaming. I'm doing tons of live streaming. Every influencers, every company, live streaming is a natural concept, but it's usually not to sell. Live streaming is, all right, I have an interview and I stream this interview live, good, or instead of recording it. In China, when I was in China, I was in Shanghai. And by the way, this is a curious thing. I remember when I arrived in Shanghai, I sent a few emails around, and the first feedback was, "Oh gosh, you have to absolutely talk with Ashley." Everyone was talking about you. So I was always impressed by that. Anyway, I immediately noticed that they were using live streaming from a shop to sell clothes, because the platform was supporting also the purchase inside the platform during the live stream. While you don't do this today inside Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, they're still behind. So try to guide us through this live streaming selling concept, which is not so natural for us in Europe.
So in China, as you rightfully mentioned, they are a little bit ahead of the world when it comes to digital ecosystems. And Chinese basically started their digital presence by copying Western platforms and then totally transforming them into a different type of animal. So they figured out that bloggers have the power, right? People trust other people. You don't trust a brand, you trust other people. And bloggers started growing in China, not because everybody wanted to be popular, but because they figured out, when I'm popular, I can make money. Not only by brand endorsement, or somebody gave me this dress or this watch, but by actually creating your own brand. And China is a perfect place to do that. So they introduced within their social media platforms sales functions. That's what Instagram also did. You can have a link, swipe up, but it's just done at such a tiny and inconvenient way. And also in China, the ecosystem was ready. People already felt very comfortable purchasing through mobile devices, checking out with Alipay, WeChat Pay. So in the West, there's a lot of people, this is a barrier. You check out through PayPal or credit card or something like this. So the market was ready, bloggers pushed it, and platforms were willing to learn. So right now we are there, And we have Douyin, we have Kuaishou, we have Taobao, which is an e-commerce platform, not even social media platform. They are e-commerce platform, and they have a huge live streaming branch, and they are sponsoring. They have a fund of billions renminbi that they invest into growing new bloggers on their platform, making them popular, and essentially transforming it into e-commerce plus social media concept, content plus sales. And this is a beautiful marriage that is definitely going to come to the rest of the world.
What's the situation of the platforms? If you can help us through the main platforms in China, for instance, in Europe, people are familiar. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok now has exploded. Podcast is growing. That's it. I mean, these are the main platforms. LinkedIn for business. Which are the main platforms in China right now?
So mainland China right now has more than 60 social media platforms that are unique to that market. 60. Wow. Yeah. And it is a huge market. Think about it. It's 1.4 billion people. It's a lot of many unique markets and niches. So if you are a mother of a newborn baby, there is a social media for you. If you are a hardcore gamer, there is a social media for you, right? But in general, when we look at the big market, big picture, there is WeChat, which is not really a social media platform. It's a super app. So it's like an operating system for China, right? Like we have iOS, Android OS, and this one is WeChat OS. So that's what they're trying to build. And then we have, of course, Weibo. Weibo is like merger of Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and many other things. It's all about the news and things popping up, but they have a beautiful campaign function, which means people go to this platform not just to read the news and gossip and follow bloggers, but they go there to win stuff. I want to get a Tesla, so I can go and I can enter a contest for Tesla, or I want a new iPhone, or I want a new thing. And of course, this constantly pulls in a lot of people. Douyin, which is TikTok in the West, is very popular right now, and they are very smart because the company behind them has AI algorithm and learning. So they are making your feed extremely addictive. And that's how, again, people are actively participating, recording videos, and people are also getting addicted to those videos. And advertising on this particular platform is also very smart because it looks like a post, not like an ad.
Got it.
At the same time, we have Kuaishou. We have Toutiao. Toutiao, for example, let me talk about that. Toutiao is a beautiful platform which aggregates all the news within China market into this one app. And the cool thing is, imagine this, you have BBC, CNN, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of the things that you care about, but they are filtered only for you. So if I know that you care about a specific topic, I'm just going to make sure that Marco is receiving X, Y, Z stuff. And it's interesting, and it is provocative, and it is this, it is that. And Toutiao is great. And a lot of guys are reading those news and nothing else. We have... of course, Taobao Live. So Taobao is an e-commerce platform, like let's say Amazon, but completely different business model. But they started building community on this platform. So each brand has their space where they can showcase their product, and they have live streaming. Basically, anytime you go to Taobao and if you want to buy a dress like this, you don't just go and see pictures, but you actually find yourself, you remember like in the 90s, all around the world, there were those advertising channel where for 5 hours they will show you advertising of a woman standing there. Just now, if you purchase with this number, I'm going to give you this and another dress like this in another color. So they are doing exactly this stuff through a live stream. So you basically watch 24/7 live stream of different products, different categories, which is extremely engaging, fun. And also they keep your attention by throwing discounts at you. So you're watching for half an hour and suddenly Marco sends me a discount and I click on it and I check out, and then there's a gift and there's this. It's super, super fun. And again, it is a community. Because China has been part of this very unique ecosystem for the past 10, 15 years, they are also different consumers. They are also different. They are wired differently. They crave this interaction, and they find it very fun. In the West, people probably think that this is crazy.
Well, I mean, it's just a different culture, and I think it's a different stage of technology adoption. And as soon as the technology will be adopted, I mean, in Italy or in France or UK at the same level, then you get the same paradigm also here, probably. Well, what about the marketing strategies that are running now in this during this coronavirus time? Did you spot anything different? What do you think are companies doing when they're doing something right in this moment? Because, for instance, I was chatting with a friend who is running a large company in Italy, and I said, look, I think in this moment it's just wrong that you try to, sell your product with discount price. People are dying in the streets. I mean, you should support the system now. Is a different way, is a different moment to communicate different values. So what's the situation in China? Anything that is interesting according to your point of view?
Right. First of all, indeed, you need to be, as a brand, very aware of how you are perceived during this crisis. In China, the moment, the big breakout happened, all the tech companies, all the developers, all the small social digital media, and even movie industry, they came together. They donated money. For instance, Alibaba, when it all started breaking out, Alibaba donated the same amount of money to Wuhan as Chinese government. And believe me, that's a lot of money.
Wow.
A lot of money. Do we see Amazon or Google or Facebook donating the same amount of money as
not really at the moment.
French government or Italian? Not at the moment. Let's see how it develops.
Yeah.
But you just need to understand that they just stood and said, you know what, we are in this together, guys, and we are going to win. Secondly, many started providing their services for free. An example, obviously you can give access to platform for free, but think about it. There were a couple of movies that were supposed to be released during Chinese New Year, but the situation happened and you can't have people in one place, etc. So the producers, the makers of the movie, made it available publicly on digital channels.
Right.
They got so much goodwill and PR and love from Chinese consumers. It was unbelievable.
For free. So they didn't.
At the same time, you need to be for free.
Sorry. For free.
Yeah.
Got it.
They
so it's like the Avengers.
Yeah.
Instead of buying the ticket for free on your mobile phone or whatever. Yeah.
Everybody's stuck at home. Absolutely. So everybody's stuck at home. So here is a movie. And then, of course, you need to be very cautious how you communicate. You cannot do sales promotions during this time. You need to be sensitive because you essentially need to communicate as a human being. You as a brand need to still channel the fact that you are a human being. So I'll give you an example. In China, Jack Daniels, right? A brand of alcohol. They could have said, oh, guys, you're stuck at home, let's drink something. I mean, that would have been horrible.
Yeah.
But what they do instead, they publish a picture. Instead of the article, they just publish a little picture and they say, who is that person you would like to meet first when quarantine is over? And just one picture with 2 glasses of whiskey. And people are like, oh, and they share, who is that person they really miss right now being on quarantine, right? So being human. Also, talk about the crisis, but never in a negative way. Don't add oil, don't give medical advice, right? If you're not a medical company. But talk about it like a human being. Like, who would you want to meet if, when the crisis is over? What would you want to do? So basically try to be helpful and try to be there for people. At the same time, it is the best opportunity for any brand. And it is also the cheapest opportunity to establish a real life connection with others, because people are stuck home, they are online, people are bored, they will speak with you, they need connection. And we ran a lot of campaigns and reach out during this past 2.5 months for various brands. And I can tell you that reach that you are getting on social media is about 35% higher than normal. Yeah. So the same dollar gives you a lot more traffic. Yeah. So it is, very, very cheap to do that. But of course, the way you communicate is great. And the final advice, never do charity marketing.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
So if you're saying that, please purchase my product and 30% of this product is going to go to a charity that's helping coronavirus, I do not know, affected people in Italy, don't do that, because you get a huge public backlash, and of course it is also deservedly so.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's crazy. I totally agree with what you said, and I totally don't understand companies that try to profit in this moment. This is not a moment that you do business. It is a moment where you create relationships and you try to behave good, to help support your community, your customers, and you'll have results later. But it's not the moment is not this one. So, but I see a lot of companies still, running super ads like crazy and mega discount. I imagine that Ashley, yesterday I got an email from a 3 Michelin star restaurant in UK, a very famous restaurant. And instead of saying, look, there is coronavirus, we shut down, we take care about our people. No, they say £75 off if you book now. Oh, come on, you kidding me? I mean, it's like crazy. I mean, it means they don't really understand the situation. So anyway, by the way, what do you think about the fact that you will have a lot of countries that will have to rebuild their brand, their reputation outside for travelers that want to travel there? Imagine, people want to travel to Italy now or to China. With coronavirus, of course, every country will be affected. So everyone will have more or less the same problem. Some country more, some country less. But what do you think would be a good strategy to be done to rebuild the reputation of an entire country? If you see in China, if you think they will do something.
Right. I think that in general, you need to know who are your target audience. So China, for many countries, at least here in Asia Pacific, is #1 tourist market by far. Yeah. 60 to 70% of all tourist arrivals to Thailand last year were from mainland China. Okay, so you can imagine how important those travelers are. And I'm sure that in Europe also it's huge numbers.
Of course.
So if we're talking about establishing, bringing Chinese travelers back, then we need to, first of all, rebuild the trust. The trust in two ways. The first trust is, unfortunately, in the past 2 months, we have seen a lot of cyberbullying against Chinese, not only in Europe. Let's be honest. It was universal. Yeah, so Asian-looking people were bitten. They were hurt. They were harassed verbally, etc., because they are bringing coronavirus onto the world, etc. So this is #1 trust, and people feel very, very frustrated. And the second one is, when I travel to your country, how well are you prepared? So how have you rebuilt your ecosystem? Unfortunately, at least in our part of the world, in APAC, many travel destinations, they are not capable to accept a lot of tourists. And that is why you have queues, you have destroyed nature, etc. So this is a beautiful opportunity to create infrastructure, to build, to prepare, to ensure your people, for example, like Disneyland here in Hong Kong, right now they cannot, they're still closed, but when they reopen, they cannot have thousands of people coming in every hour. So for instance, to make people feel a bit better, why not say we only invite, 500 guests a day. So you are in the park with 500 guests. So Chinese, let's say tourists, they also feel a bit more secure. Okay, you care for me and you prepared this infrastructure. So this is when it comes to Chinese.
And you have a better experience.
International tourists. Right, and you have better experience as well. And believe me, people after this kind of crisis situations, they're willing to pay more. They are willing to, when it's a high risk environment. For products, they want a discount. But when you go out, when you go into this high risk environment, you're willing to pay more for better quality, for better experience, for better stuff. So in terms of Chinese tourists, they will be back, but at first they will start coming back to Southeast Asia, and only second and third step, they will start coming, to places around the world, like Italy, like Europe, like the rest of the world. And I believe that very similar thing is going to happen globally, depending on what kind of tourists you target.
Got it. Going back to China, did you see any company that behaved particularly well from a marketing point of view, or small, medium business that found a way to reinvent themselves? I'm thinking, for instance, about restaurants. I'll give an example. And I saw a video, I think that you linked the video. There was this restaurant that basically was taking temperature of the chef, waitress, the delivery guy. They were spraying antibacterial on the delivery guy. They were writing down the temperature on a receipt for the customer. So they were really trying to make the best out of the situation, because people, maybe they were scared to order because maybe the virus could come with the food, any kind of fear. So any example that you saw that you thought, wow, this is genius, they really got it, they reinvented themselves in the situation?
Absolutely. I've seen a lot of examples. So the first thing that really sort of was very quickly changed in China is, of course, delivery. You are sitting at home, self-quarantining or whatever, working from home, and you have these people bringing you food. You definitely want to make sure that they are not sick and that your stuff is handled properly. So instantly, everybody, including McDonald's, KFC, including, local small restaurants, they started using these little temperature sheets where they would measure the temperature of everybody who touched your food, the chef, the person who washes the veggies, and the person who delivers it, and they put it inside your little bag. So you open your takeaway and you can see it. So that added a bit more trust. The second thing, a lot of businesses, actually, because China was on quarantine for 2 months, a lot of businesses started suffering, and restaurant businesses were the ones that have very low cash flow. And after 2 months, paying rent, paying their staff, you just cannot survive. So there was this small chain in China, and I absolutely loved what they did. They essentially, again, they had maybe 4 or 5 restaurants, a small chain, and their stock was rotting in the storage, and they had no people to work, right? And they had basically all the locations closed. So the guy was super desperate, the founder, and he said, okay, let's just go fully digital. So what he did, he opened up the kitchen, invited their chefs into two different kitchens, and he started live streaming how their chefs are making food.
Got it.
And he started selling online, not the food, cooked food, but the pre-prepared pack. For example, chopped vegetables with chopped chicken or something. And then you purchase this pre-prepared food. You can cook yourself. And while you're cooking, the chef is constantly teaching you and telling you how to actually make it. So they combine the classes and they totally sold out their basically storage.
Smart.
And they became like the national heroes of that specific province. The same thing happened with bookstores. Bookstores basically were almost annihilated across China. So they moved to online delivery platform, the one that delivers food. Suddenly, together with the food, they started offering you, do you want to get this food together with this book? So you're stuck at home, why not learn? And that's how they started profiting, not just selling ebooks, but actually giving you physical books together with food. So that was also a phenomenal idea.
Interesting. Did you see anything about hotels? I mean, in Italy, hotels were obviously destroyed because you don't want to book there. And if you book, you cancel, 100% cancellation. I saw someone trying to reinvent themselves completely, like saying, all right, let's go to the delivery sector. So people need delivery. So my employees, instead of working the hotel, deliver food, deliver clothes, whatever. Did you see anything in China that hotel did, the big chain, or they just shut down and that's it?
Right. So that's very common. This kind of shared employees is actually also has been very common in the past 2 months. For example, Alibaba, they hired many restaurant staff that couldn't obviously work. And they made them also delivery people, in their ecosystem. In terms of hotels, it's a bit more complicated because people do not want to. First of all, hotels in China will not accept you if you're booking long term, because they think, oh, maybe you have coronavirus and you want to just contaminate the whole place.
I see.
So think about this: if Yeah, if I come in and I want to stay for 3 days, that's not suspicious. But if I go to some beautiful resort and I say, oh, I want to stay for 2 weeks, maybe you're self-quarantining. Maybe you are now going to spread the virus all around. So it's not just people not booking, but also the hotel chains being very, very careful with who they accept as guests. It's a bit more complicated, but what we've seen is many of those hotels, as well as department locations, let's say department stores, they can actually start selling, first of all, doing tours around the hotel and telling them stories. So again, interaction. And secondly, selling some coffee, high tea, selling some, little bears that come together in the hotel room. So all these kind of small things, you can basically turn it into some sort of merchandise. So you become a virtual cafe. In China right now, by the way, if you think this virtual cafe is funny, where you go on a tour and drink coffee and tea and buy a little teddy bear, think about virtual clubbing.
Right.
I mean, on week 4 of China lockdown, people were so bored of their mind that literally a couple of platforms, and I'm not kidding you, they launched a virtual clubbing. So there were DJs, and you tune in, you pay money. So it's like a festival, like a music festival. Think about this. You pay money, there are live DJs, you're jumping across different rooms, and you are clubbing with others, you're dancing, you can see other people dancing.
While you drink in your little room.
Yes, but if I see you, Marco, and I like the way you move,
I
can also tick on you and say, hey, let's chat. Yeah, I can really meet people. It's crazy. So there was virtual clubbing, and I believe, again, this is something that we find ridiculous, but this is a reality of life in China right now. People are okay to go virtual coffee drinking and virtual clubbing,
meeting other people. That's really funny and crazy. But what about VR or augmented reality? Anything moved there, or not really?
Well, these have always been rather developed in China compared to the rest of the world. So, of course, yes, there are movements. Let's say one of the coolest games that everybody wanted to play was a Japanese invention. It's a Japanese game. I don't remember, was it Nintendo or somebody else? But basically, it's this virtual ring. You purchase the little handles, and the moment you switch them on, it becomes like a virtual ring. And then you look at your computer, and it teaches you different movements. So you are either slaying dragons, or you are, again, virtual clubbing. So that thing usually in retail is around 1,500 RMB. At the peak, because everybody wanted it, it was selling for 5,000 RMB. It's super crazy, 5 times the price. So once these sold out, people were so bored that they started buying the mats, yoga mats, to do some physical exercise. And also in China right now, essentially this kind of physical activity, keeping fit, is also on the rise, because people want to stay healthy, and people are also bored to sit home all the time.
That's a good point. I installed yesterday Peloton app, which is big, in in the West. And I mean, there are so many classes, because after a while you say, all right, I slept, I ate, I drank. I mean, what can I do? So you try to keep fit, and you need content to be fit. I mean, YouTube has got millions of videos about that. Right. So fitness is another interesting industry. What about social media marketing in this moment? Do you think would be a good moment, let's say a cheaper moment, to approach China from a social media marketing point of view, or more or less the situation now is the same as before? If you want to launch your campaign and enter the Chinese market, what would you recommend?
Right. In general, I would say when the rest of the world right now is going to suffer the consequences of coronavirus, and I'm sure that it's going to take a while for the world to get hold of it. It's very complex. The way, again, with travel, etc. China is probably going to recover soonest. And what I always say about China, there's never going to be a cheaper time.
Right.
Because China is, people are extremely sophisticated. They have the money, they know digital, they want Western products, they want food, they want outfits, they want digital gadgets, they want all of it. So there's a huge competition, both international and local. And Doesn't matter what happens. It's only going to become more
Got
expensive.
it.
So when is the best time to enter China?
Yeah.
Today.
Right.
It's not going to be tomorrow. Yeah. And the best time was yesterday. So right now it's an interesting time to enter because you have opportunities to capture the new normal. The way people not only purchase, but also the way people feel, the things people find extremely important in their life, their priorities in life, the way they conduct themselves, all of these things are changing. And if you are able to understand what is this new normal, not for the whole of China, China is complex and big. There's so many target groups, but for your specific target group, what is the best way right now to communicate with them? What do they want to buy? How can my product solve their problem? You have a huge opportunity because right now nobody knows what is the new normal. All the big companies, literally, we are very busy right now. People come to me and say, Ashley, how's your business? Your business is related to China. You just had 2 months of coronavirus. I say it's amazing. The business is great because all of the companies come right now and say, we need to redo our strategy. So you as a brand located in Europe, you as a newcomer, you have a phenomenal opportunity to capture while these big giants are trying to change what they're doing. Come and grasp and act. So there are cross-border opportunities to China. You can sell directly. Right now, it's already again open because this drop shipment was closed in Hong Kong for a while. Drop shipment to China comes through Hong Kong. So right now you can ship to China. A lot of platforms, including Taobao, including Douyin, including Red, which is the Xiaohongshu, they now allow easy access to foreign brands into China. So they simplified your registration procedures. On Taobao previously, before you could do live, you had to satisfy 1, 2, 3, 4 different requirements. Right now, you just open your account and you can go live. So it is not a bad time to do that for sure.
Interesting. Ashley, help my community to understand how to enter the Italian, the Chinese market, because in Italy we have a lot of made in Italy companies, small, medium, great brands that maybe produce food or wine or shoes, classic made in Italy, fashion, blah, blah, blah. The problem that I see when I talk with my fellow Italian friends is that China is seen as a very difficult country because of the language. So you don't understand exactly the market, and because of probably rules and laws, and you think, oh gosh, if I want to sell to China, maybe I have some great fashion brand that could be fantastic in China, but you are, in the middle of Italy and you don't know how to do it, basically. So what would you recommend? What could be a good strategy to start selling or start entering into the Chinese market in this moment?
I would say the first step to enter China's market is to really understand what is going on.
Right.
A lot of people think that China is a unified market, like Italy.
Yeah.
No, it's not. China is like Europe. So there are parts of China which are more like Italy, parts like Germany, parts like the UK. So you need to understand what part of that market is actually your target audience. Another thing, a lot of international brands still feel that they are so super unique and they have very few competitors. Believe me, China's seen it all and has it all. So you need to understand, is there a need for that product in the market? What do consumers say? So never go to China before you at least spend some time and money onto having your strategy or research or market study. It's going to save you tons of time and tons of money.
Yeah.
China is extremely expensive when it comes to entering it. For example, if you think about Facebook, you just open a Facebook page and then you can start selling and you can pay $10 to advertise something. It's not going to get you there, but you can do something like that. In China, to open an account, right? Let's say on WeChat or Weibo, that already takes $2,000 because as a foreign company who doesn't have Chinese BR, business registration, you need to go through a verification process. So to open a social media account, you need $2,000. But the opportunity of the market is, of course, huge. Sure. And knowing what you're doing there, opening those accounts, and also do not try to reach the whole China, just find your little niche. And believe me, that's going to be enough. Then when you have some success, the partners will come and you can mushroom mushroom and grow from there. A lot of people try to go to China through just a distributor. Like, I'm going to find this China guy who is going to be my distributor. And very often they kill your brand, because in China, you cannot compete on product. You cannot say, this is my product and I'm competing. You need to compete on the story, on the brand, on your heritage, on the fact that you are Italian, that you hand make everything. And your distributor doesn't care about your brand. They care about selling SKUs. And that's the problem. And many of them are, obviously, they don't have any marketing background. So while it is great to have distributors, you need to, as a brand, you always need to own your story, and you essentially have a distributor that's helping you.
Right.
That's if you're a mid-sized company. If you're really, really small, just try with bloggers. No need to open an account. No need. You just go to bloggers, and you will, guys, I will break it to you. You still need to pay them money. It's not going to be profit share. A lot of people think they're going to go to a blogger and say, please sell my pencil.
Revenue share.
50% off. Yeah, no. China has moved past this model already 5 years ago. So you guys are 5 years too late. Right now, you will still pay the money for post plus profit share. Yeah, let's say 20% or 30%. And you will see a few things. First of all, you might not make money, right? Because you paid the blogger a lot. But you will see whether there's a need for your product. What does the blogger say? What is the feedback? So you will do a mini market study, and you will already understand, is it the right audience? Is it the right message? Is it the right product? Etc., etc. So one way or another, you will be able to get this sense. And my final piece of advice would be, if you do not consider China after a test or after a strategy, or generally you're sitting at the table, you're thinking what to do right now. If you do not consider China your most important development market, so the market where you want to invest time, energy, etc., if you don't see potential there, don't do China.
Right.
It's expensive and it's going to be a waste of time. So only go there when you really feel, yes, there is potential, and let us, test it first, and then commit, and then, expand.
How do you solve the language barrier? Because some companies say, all right, I can do, with subtitles and that's it. But do you think is appropriate, or you need just Chinese speaking and that's it?
No, you need, no. You don't, I don't know. If I go to Italy and I decide to open a education platform in Italy and I speak English and I put Italian subtitles, will that work?
No.
Most likely not, unless I teach English. I don't know, right? It's not going to work. So the same thing for China, but even more. I mean, for them, language is so deeply rooted in the culture. There are so many nuances. So you will not be able to do it in any other language but Chinese. Essentially, you will have to outsource, either hire a Chinese speaking staff into your team that manages this, or you outsource to a team or an agency that becomes basically your representative. If you are a mid-sized company and you're going to sell volumes, you will have to have two partners. One is the marketing partner that really handle your communication. The second one is the TP, which is the Taobao partner, which are the people that manage your online store, that on JD, which is Jingdong, or Alibaba, people that manage your customer relations, people that manage your refunds, logistics, supply chain, etc. So these two are usually not one person. So you will be like a triangle, a brand, TP partner, and your marketing company. If you're just a small brand and you are a hotel, or you're somebody who really tries to break into this market, you believe in it, you had some success there, then you hire your person who's Chinese. In Italy, there's plenty of Chinese people you can hire, and then this person is responsible for that market, and he or she will need some help along the way, but essentially they will be able to handle small scale operation.
Great. Ashley, just to conclude this chat, I would speak with you for 3 days because it's so interesting. Yeah, or especially if you're not really into the Chinese market, is so interesting because there are so many differences. Any other trend that you see, any other opportunity coming out of this coronavirus crisis that are lessons we learn from China? Is it anything else that I forgot to ask you, or we forgot to talk about?
I think just remember, live streaming is super important, and in Italy there's also tons of opportunities within that market, and also going to China. If you're a super small brand, you can also hire yourself a Chinese person and just do live stream at your location. If you are Milan I do not know, right? After everything gets better
Yeah.
and you can go outside, you can also start live streaming from the streets of Milan, right? So really utilize that live streaming feature with your staff as much as possible. In the second one is private pool. So this is the concept that I believe will definitely come to Europe very, very soon. Private pool, it means you are not paying the platform to reach your consumer, but you're creating your own private group of consumers, and you are communicating with them one-to-many without having to pay platform every time you try to reach them.
Right.
So in China, they are masters of doing that through various groups, WeChat, chats, etc., etc. And throughout this coronavirus, everybody is a member of huge groups. I believe this is also going to come, and as more and more businesses in Italy and around the world are going to move more digital, the softest landing to go digital is really to go with people that you already know offline, move them to digital private group, and then slowly and gradually try to reach more people that you haven't met before. So this transition into online will be soft landed through this private pool. And another thing I think that's very interesting for us to remember is that this coronavirus has also given another boost to Chinese local brands, because first of all, they have supported the market.
Yeah.
I mean, people are loyal to them, people are grateful, and we're going to see probably some very strong and very unusual Chinese brands, as you said, shoes, fashion, really nice quality, very high end, not so big, right? Not only being popular in China in the coming year or two, but potentially also going abroad. So this is a long-term kind of trend, but it's definitely going to realize at one point.
Fantastic. Ashley, thank you so much, and keep in touch. Good luck for everything.